right, folks, we're going to go ahead and get started for our afternoon. But as I said earlier today, please feel free to get up and move around, get some more food if you'd like. There's some water in the back, and just, it was a great lunch, right? Woohoo! Yeah, all right. So if I could have your attention just for a moment before we bring Becky up, I wanted to point out a couple more things that are in your packet. Some of you may have said, you know, those community grants are great, but what about bringing in business into our community, and how can we spur that growth it happening in our community, not just in other communities? So there's another flyer that looks very similar to the community program grant flyer, and this one is for business development grants. So if your community is inspired to bring in businesses into your community, but the businesses are maybe tapped a little bit more, they're looking for leveraged resources, there's also a grant program of which our office coordinates as well with the Economic Development Advisory Group to put resources out that supports business development. So please take a look at that. It does also have a deadline for applications. It's April 28th. Flyer talks a little bit more about the details. And then I also want to point out this resource map. With a partnership of SEDCOR and the Council of Governments, they took a statewide resource and turned it into a local resource. And isn't it nice looking? So take a peek in your flyer or in your packet about this particular piece. Learn a little bit more, ask questions about opportunities that may work for your communities. The one thing that isn't listed on here, it's because of the county's new resurgence with its economic development investments. The grants that I've been mentioning are not listed on here, but those are also a resource. And there may be other things that need to be added, and we'd love to have that feedback for future reiterations. So thank you again for being here, staying with us for today. I'm going to bring Becky back up here, and she's going to engage us in some exciting information.
Got your handouts ready? These little guys right here. Yep, okay, excellent. Dig those back out. What's the page? 4. Page 3. Page 3. Rural jobs creation strategies. The nature of work, the nature of our jobs has changed considerably over the last 30 years. Yes or no? Yes. Who said hell yes? I'm giving bonus points for whoever said that. If the nature of our jobs has changed, should the nature of our jobs creation change? Yes or no? Where's my hell yes on that one? Okay. So these are not your grandfather's jobs creation strategies. These are different kind of jobs creation strategies. They're ones that actually work even if your town is 500 people or 30 people. So we're going to talk about building connections. You remember the idea-friendly process that we first covered this morning, which said that we were going to gather our crowd by putting out a big idea. We were going to build connections to make our crowd into a powerful network, and then together we would take small steps. So we're going through this in reverse order. We did taking small steps to start with. Now we're going to talk about building connections between people, because no one creates jobs in a vacuum. People create jobs when they connect. Innovation happens. Remember Professor Brian Utze said, innovation happens with open networks, with connections of different kinds of people. So in order for us to generate the innovations, that create jobs, we need to connect people in our communities. We need to connect people who are somewhat alike. We need to connect people who are very different so that they get the benefit of different perspectives and different backgrounds. And we need to connect to outside resources that are outside of our community. That is how jobs creation works in small towns. So you want to create events, times, when people can connect. So we'll be talking about the events that happen where community happens when people talk to each other. So we want to help our people talk to each other in meaningful ways. And so you can start by holding actual networking events for locals. This was in Norfolk County, Ontario. They were holding their economic development conference, and they held speed networking for locals. Anybody could ask for a 5-minute meeting with anyone else. Seems pretty simple, doesn't it? What they found were people asked for 5 minutes, not with somebody they'd never met before, but with somebody they knew. Because even though I know you and I see you around town, then maybe just while we're standing on the steps at the post office is maybe not the best time to talk to you about this great project idea I have for us to work together. Maybe we need a chance to sit down and spend 5 minutes together. And that's what they found in Norfolk County, is most people asked for introduction or a meeting with people they already knew so that they could generate more business with the people in the community. You can also do business fairs. I think business fairs are great. Business fairs are where you take any open space. This one happened to be held in an empty building in Ohio. And they just got together their home-based and rural businesses in this case. Michelle Robles told me about this one. They started it because one of their board members needed a piece of custom hose for a piece of equipment. And he was driving 17 miles to the nearest big town that had somebody making custom hydraulic hose. And then he found out somebody 2 miles outside of town in a rural business, probably in a barn, was making hydraulic hose. So he could get it there and actually cost less than the place he was driving 17 miles to get it there. They decided, we need to make sure that everybody knows what businesses we have in our rural area. So they took an empty building downtown. They let everybody that has a rural or a home-based business have a booth just to show what it is that they do. They brought in lots of people to come in. They cleaned up the building. They had a good time. They started 2 new businesses because people talked to each other at the event. That's what happens. Community happens when people talk to each other. No one creates jobs in a vacuum. Colville in Washington does one specifically for tech-related businesses. So if you can make a claim of being high-tech, you're welcome to participate in their business fair. Now, one trick about these, sometimes they're held out in the fairgrounds or someplace far away from downtown. I really like to see these happen in downtown every time you possibly can, so that you circulate more interest and excitement into your downtown. Tom will probably tell me that's illegal, though. But, we had one important message from Tom, which is currently illegal is not the same thing as never going to happen. Right? I think that may be the essence of his message, was that doesn't mean we can't do it. That just means maybe we got to make some changes. Backroom tours. This one also happened in Ontario. This is a lavender farm and a winery, and they're having a little backroom tour as part of a conference that I attended. Who doesn't love to go into the back room of a business and kind of poke around in their stuff, find out what's going on, how do they do things? We love doing that because we learn from what they're doing, and then we find out, oh, you carry this stuff? I love that stuff. I didn't know you had that thing. So we'll buy from each other when we do this. And then I'll go, oh, well, customers come into my store all the time who want that, and I can send them to you. There's a great group that does this in Brownsville, Texas. Brownsville, Texas. And they call it shop hopping around Brownsville. And they just meet once a month in the back room of any particular business that's a part of their group, and they all get a chance to shop from each other and to send people to other businesses. If that results in the hiring of one new person in town, is that jobs creation? Yes. Thank you for saying yes without even having to prompt that. All right. Okay, business resource night. So now we're getting close to the things that Jasmine was talking about, of providing a little bit of business support so that people can build connections with the resources they need to get into business. And you remember when Jasmine talked about that in St. Helen, Mount Helen, St. Helen. that not only did the first prize winner who got money go into business, but the others who received the support, the number 2 person also managed to make it in business because they built connections with the resources they needed to get into business. Is that jobs creation?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Okay. So Business Resource Night. This one is called Entrebash, and it was held in Webster City, Iowa. It's a moving event, and it's held in different towns in Iowa. And they bring resource people together, they have tables, and they do some presentations, and everybody gets tools and resources and connections for what they need to go into business. Pretty cool. Before I go on, Cassandra Boniface from the township of Stirling Rawdon in Ontario told me they do an event that is called Business Resource Night, which is where I stole the name. And what they do is they actually have it in a casual setting. So instead of having like formal booths and like tables and lectures, they do it in a casual, like comfy chairs, and come sit down and just talk to me across at the sofa, and we'll talk. And she brought in people that did business planning, business consulting, logo creation, funding, all kinds of everything she could think of that had anything to do with getting into business. She just brought them together, and you could meet them in a casual setting. Much better, much easier to access. You can also do regular training, and you can do this over and over. It doesn't have to happen just once and then be gone. The city of San Saba in Texas, they had a new economic development director, and he went around and talked to people, and people kept telling him, I'd like to go into business, but I just don't know where to start. What's my first step? So he said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bring the Small Business Development Center. They're going to come in, and he set a date, they set a time, they actually held that, and they had 22 people show up the first night. They were so excited, the SBDC said, we'll come back in 2 weeks and get more people if you have more people. So they started doing regular training. Tony is his name, Tony Guidros went out, and he would find other people who were interested in going into business. Town of 2,500 people, 13 new businesses, and 88 new jobs, because he connected them to the resources that already exist. 88 new jobs in a town of 2,500 people. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. You can also take online courses. If you tell me that you absolutely can't find somebody to come in and do some training in your community, there are courses online all over. This one is at myownbusiness.org. But you can find all kinds of business training online. If you would just get together a small group and you guys would sit down together in your community, take the classes together, talk about it, have someone to reflect with, chance to bounce ideas back and forth, you're building connections. You're going to create jobs that way. So those are connection events, but another whole section of this are connection places. Finding places that people can build a connection with each other, so that they're not just haphazard, but you deliberately bring people into the same spot and let them connect with each other.
What was that last one?
Myownbusiness.org.
I didn't get the dot.
Yeah, myownbusiness.org.
Thank you.
All right. Those courses are free, by the way, and they will give you a certificate if you complete them. There's one on starting a business and one on growing your business. So, and they're available in Spanish too. So, okay, connection places. We're gonna bring people. Community happens when people talk to each other. Let's bring them all to the same spot. So, co-working is a prime example of where people can make connections. If you bring a bunch of people who work from their laptop into the same building, you give them office space and tables to work from, they will talk to each other. That's what's going to happen. They will end up building connections, and more jobs will get created. Maker spaces are another big one here, and that is where you take co-working space, but then you add equipment of any kind. Tom will tell you it's illegal. Don't believe him. Just depends where you are and how you do it. So this one is in a hospital building. This town of Sonora, California lost their hospital. And so local people took over one whole floor. They put in co-working space. They put in a video conferencing center. They put in computer programming computers so that you could sit down and do programming and game programming and web design and web programming. And they put in an electronics lab and a woodworking lab and everything they could think of and round up equipment for, so that people could come here together and tinker And let me tell you, when you get two tinkerers in the building with each other, what will happen? They're going to make stuff, but they're also going to kibitz with each other. What are you using there? You using a Phillips head on that? Oh my gosh. I mean, that's what guys do when they start making stuff, right? No? All right. Well, we're never going to let you people eat again because you just dry up on me. All right. You were warmed up this morning. You would talk to me. You're going to hate what we do next. I can just tell you that. Okay, commercial kitchens, extremely important, which Tom had a good point. When you try to go into any kind of a food-based business, there are all kinds of regulations. In the tiny town of Tacoma, Oklahoma, which is a population of maybe 100 people, I'm kind of stretching for them in an optimistic manner, they lost their elementary school. So they took the school building, they kept that big, huge, lovely commercial kitchen that was inside of it, made sure it was certified by the health department up to the standards needed, and boom, you have a commercial kitchen incubator. These pickles, which are really good, these are really good pickles. They make them there. They make them in huge batches. They call in their whole family and go together and they make pickles there in the incubator, the food incubator. One of the things that makes this incredibly valuable is they connect people who use the kitchen to the state resources from the state university that focus on food and food products, so that they can make the connections they need to turn that into a viable commercial product so they can generate jobs. What about those tiny business villages? Do you suppose people end up making connections there? Don't you suppose the vendors talk to each other and that ends up creating new jobs? Absolutely they do. In fact, a neighboring town, so the tiny business village is in Tionesta, Pennsylvania. Their neighbors in Titusville, I don't know, I haven't been there. They have this building that belongs to one of their agencies. The bottom floor is called the Blue Canoe. It's a beautiful restaurant. The next floor up, they're turning into an arts and crafts incubator so that it's a big shared retail space, so that anyone with any arts or crafts related business can go in there, and together they will all offer this huge retail experience. So for shoppers, it'll be great. All these, alpaca wool, and they mentioned just all, quilts and fabric arts and any kind of artists, local jewelry makers, everything that you can conceivably label as arts and crafts, they want to bring them together in that space. So that they'll make connections, they'll share ideas, it'll end up changing the way things happen there. In the little divided retail, the little retail village, those business owners talk to each other when they get in there. And customers walk in and go, oh, I could fill a little table. I make headbands. I do something on the side. I could fill a little push cart, and that's going to generate more business. In the shared art spaces that I mentioned from Sulphur, Oklahoma, in the Artesian Gallery, the director of that, Mark Mulligan, who's with the Chickasaw Nation, told me that his vision for that was like his experience in college, where artists of different kind that worked in different media got together, shared the experiences, got a chance to try other media they weren't used to using, and they exchanged ideas. So he sees it as changing things because they bring people together. So, you build a more powerful network when you build connections. So now, I told you you'd hate this part. This is where you got to talk to each other. I know you like to talk to each other. It's just me that you won't talk to. So I want to give you a chance at your tables. You have your handouts. If you haven't completely filled them with little hearts and other cute drawings. She is making notes though, so I don't want you to think I'm picking on it. That means she really likes this idea, I think. Okay. So take your handouts and you can work by yourself, but I'm going to give you 5 full minutes to talk about this or any of what we talked about this morning with the innovative rural business models, tiny together, temporary trucks and trailers. So you've got 5 minutes to work at your tables. Good work. Okay, so we have about 4 minutes left, so I'm going to give you the opportunity. Who has a really exciting thing that you'd like to share? You do have to actually stand up and bravely come to the microphone and share with everybody. Who would like to talk about something? I see some pointing of fingers across tables. You get up. So I'm given bonus points. I didn't bring liquor. I should have brought liquor from the store. There would be a rush. Who has a good one? Come on up. Come on up. Come on. Come here. Yay, give her some encouragement.
Anybody who knows me knows I'm not shy.
All right, let them have it.
So we actually
Get right on top of it, baby.
Oh,
Oh.
well, that helps.
Yeah, that probably does help. All right.
There you go. We actually have a school. And the old Gates School closed up at the canyon, and right now Upward Bound is up there, but it would be great for a commercial kitchen. And we've already started building the community connections between all the canyon communities, which probably means nothing to you, but
No, I can
I
picture
think
it.
you guys know that we've been working together on tourism and a lot of other things, so we already have these connections to be able to spread. So say, somebody from Almsville can come up because we can share the information with them.
Yeah, and that's a great point about, okay, not every little town has to do a commercial kitchen.
Yeah.
Because you can borrow, you can connect with each other. All the canyon towns can cooperate on this. That's great. All right, give her some encouragement. All right, one more.
I guess so.
Okay, but you got to come on up. Come on. Is there one more after him? I think we might be able to squeeze one more. Get in line. Okay. Here's Scott. He's got it.
I've got a friend that just went to the city council last month because she wants to once a month take the arts and crafts type people and give them tables at a local park and have a fair, and she got permission to do that.
Excellent.
So.
Excellent. That's a great one. Thank you, Scott. Scott was so quick. We have 2 minutes left on this. Somebody else want to throw a good one out here? Or do you have a puzzling question that you're not sure how you can solve? If not, I'm going to turn my 2 minutes back to the organizers and we will move forward from here. I think, do we have a 10-minute break after this? Or we do. We have time for a 10-minute break. I encourage you to continue the conversations around your tables. You and I, we will all have one more session together where we're going to talk about where we find the people to make these things happen and talk about gathering our crowd. So you have 10 minutes.